Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Niall.
And I'm Kyle, and I'm going to use my platform here, however limited it may be, to put out a personal message to the internet. Is that
okay?
Do you mind?
I mean, I don't know if I'll fully be able to answer that question until I hear what the message is, but I'll give you a tentative okay.
Okay. No, that's fair. I'm not watching Phenomena Kunk. The internet wants me to watch this Kunk woman.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what it is. I just, nothing that I have seen about it appeals to me. I've even had friend of the show Colin tell me to watch it.
I see. The thing is, when I first saw any bit of this, my initial thought was, "Oh, Kyle would like that."
Oh,
like it seems very up your alley.
Okay, interesting.
It's kind of I've only seen like a very short clip of it on Twitter, and then I've scrolled past it on Netflix once or twice. But it's kind of like a very confident dumbass character.
Okay, yeah. No, okay, you're right. That is kind of a thing that I would be into, but maybe I just haven't seen the right clips. But I just feel like I've been bombarded with this woman's face, which, like, it's fine. It's just like it's sort of like when what was that show about that one fucking dude who's like, I don't know, he's like a sports leader guy. Thank you, Ted Lasso. I was bombarded with that shit, and man, let me tell you, that made me never want to watch that show. The amount of shit that I secondhand had to witness of that show.
I have never watched Ted Lasso, and I will say I am, despite the fact that I've put in the effort to try to kill this within myself, I am a bit of a contrarian in some of these things.
Okay.
So to the point where like there's the running bit of I had a coworker a couple years ago who would never shut up about the fact that I hadn't seen Jurassic Park. So I then vowed to not see Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Until the day that he quit he quit and left, and then I ended up watching it. But like, I get the impulse. I also have not watched Ted Lasso. I don't have anything actually against it. But it just is. It's a thing that I haven't clicked play on, so I have no actual feelings. But the more people who tell me to do something, the less likely I am to do it sometimes.
Yeah, I also can be a bit of a contrarian, but like, I don't know. I could argue about why I think it's okay to just, like, if you're bombarded with a thing like that, and I think it's okay to opt out when everything is fucking telling you it. But I actually do have something personal against Ted Lasso recently, which is that the Ted Lasso cast, like, on behalf of the Biden administration, recently delivered a speech about how, like, it's okay to be depressed or something, or like mental health is important. And that just, all of that, just the edifice of that, and the White House being behind getting them on it just felt so fucking bullshit to me.
Yeah.
And so now I will never watch that. I mean, before I was against it because of how much I was inundated. But now after seeing that shit, them getting up there on the little Joe Biden cuck pulpit,
even less interested.
Even less interested. Now we have an email this week, by the way.
Okay. See, I was about to. I have one quick question for you before before we wrap this little segment up.
Yeah.
Do you have an Apple Plus subscription?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so you're not part of the menagerie anyway.
I'm not in the Apple gang, the Apple dumpling gang. No, we
No,
do
we
have,
were the Apple Dumpling Gang was us in high school. Fucking the Cold Stone Creamery down the road from your house where you would just go get a fucking hot apple
oh my
dumpling
God.
with some sweet cream ice cream.
I
Fucking best thing in the world.
that shit was awesome. We go pick one of those up and like go chill at my place and like play video games. That was the shit. I honestly pine for the days when my body handled dairy slightly better than it does now. I miss ice cream a lot. I gotta be honest with you. Good memories. Niall, do you mind if I just like bust this email out real quick?
No, go ahead. I did not read this email in full.
Okay.
I saw it come in, and I've been kind of saving it because I like my emails read to me, I guess.
Yeah. Let me just bring this out of the oven fresh hot for you, like an apple a la mode. Apple pie a la mode, I should say.
Hot apple with some ice
Hot
cream
apple.
on top of it.
I mean,
hey,
it's
probably good.
I like a hot apple. You ever have one of those
Yeah.
like baked apples with cinnamon?
Yeah.
No ice cream involved in that. Maybe I'll have to get one of those going.
Yeah.
This email was titled "The Green Children of Woolpit," and it's from Cal, and this is what it says. Hey guys, first off, love the podcast. Been listening a couple years now. Still have a bit of a backlog, the first 50 odd episodes. So apologies if you covered this suggestion, but I'd love to hear your guys' take on the Green Children of Woolpit. That's Woolpit. It's an interesting historic folklore extraterrestrial type thing local to where I live in England. Borley Rectory is also nearby. Me and my friends as dumb teenagers would occasionally go sneak on the site where it was and the church nearby in the middle of the night to ghost hunt or whatever, so super cool that you covered it. You did briefly allude to them in a very recent episode when you mentioned the Greens, when talking about 57 different supposedly known alien races, as the info about their origin was seemingly straight lifted from the historic account. Anyways, sorry for a bit of a nonsensical ramble. Keep on keeping on. Send Jules and Garrett my regards. And if any of you guys end up coming to the UK for anything, definitely announce it on the pod, as I'd love to buy you guys a drink or two. Signed, Cal. That's awesome, first of all. And second of all, you never have to apologize to us for anything you say in the email unless it's, I don't know. If you email us like something like racist, I would say
then we would ask for an
apologize.
apology publicly.
Yeah.
But
although it is extremely weird that you're like emailing us and you're like, sorry about this, and then racist statement would be kind of a strange formatting of an email, but nonetheless, I at least would appreciate the effort to apologize. Thankfully, we don't really get those.
No.
But this is interesting because first of all, Borley Rectory was a really cool topic. I thought I didn't realize that because I thought this was going to be. I mean, yeah, you mentioned the Greens, right? That's what we were talking about with those different alien races. So I guess that comes from this actual account, which I'd never heard of before.
I have heard. So this isn't the Green Children of Banyos, is it?
No, this is the Green
Banjos?
Children of
Okay.
Woolpit. Although maybe there's a
there's a-
connection.
There's a Green Children in Spain thing called the Green Children of Banyos, however you want to say it. I don't know how it's said because I've only read it so far. That I've had pulled aside as like a possible topic, but I guess this isn't the same thing.
No, I mean maybe they're connected, but it's interesting. I'd never heard of it, but now I have the name, and the topic is going to lodge it right here in my brain for future reference. So thank you very much, Cal, for emailing us. Much appreciated.
Yeah. So this week, Kyle,
Yeah.
I decided. Have I actually said this on the podcast?
What?
I live in Maryland now. And not going any more specific than that, but this week I decided to take a look into our local my new local cryptid lore and see just what is out there.
I kind of anticipated this.
Yeah, it seemed like kind of a slam dunk. Like it seemed like
Yeah.
a pretty, a decent thing to get to eventually. But I found, so there are two that I'm going to talk about today. One of which is kind of the main one, but then it's linked to another cryptid, so I added that as well, just because that one doesn't have nearly as much to it. But today, Kyle, I want to take you on a trip to Maryland where we're going to talk about the Snallygaster and the Dwayyo.
Interesting. I've heard of the first one, but don't know anything about the second one.
Here's the thing. Have you heard of the actual Snallygaster, or have you heard of the fearsome critter, the Snallygaster?
Oh, well, now that's a good question because I don't know if I know the difference.
Because I will elucidate the difference here in a little bit. But I want to preface talking about this one because the Snallygaster is maybe one of the more interesting evolving cryptid folklore things that I've come across, because like depending on what you're looking into, every time I went and found new sources, I was finding like different explanations for what actually might have been happening, different like twists to this thing. It's a very interesting journey that I went on trying to figure out what the fuck this thing was. And there's portions of it that are pretty straight ahead cryptid, and then there's some other really cool like tangential shit that we're going to talk about. I really like this thing. This thing is a maybe a new favorite cryptid of mine. So I'm excited to talk about the Snallygaster today. So the first thing I think you got to know about the Snallygaster is that effectively a lot of people think of it as just a big dragon. So that's just like a good place to start. It sometimes will get called the North American dragon or similar names because the
American dragon.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of that vibe to it. This thing will put you in the fucking cattle mutilation.
Kick your fucking head in.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Now, I'd just like to say that deciding you have a new favorite cryptid is a big change. I think
it's definitely up there.
It's a big life
because
change.
of some stuff that we'll get to later in the episode. I think you will understand.
Okay.
Because like, I don't know. There's something about the twists that I took in like trying to research this that just brought such joy to me. Because I kept finding, this was one of those things where, when you're looking up a cryptid or whatever, and certain sources will just have like an extra sentence that no other source has that just like knocks your teeth out, like
blows your tits clean off. Yeah, I understand completely.
I kept running into those, and then I would like actually be able to kind of like reverse engineer where that came from in certain ways, in a way that was really satisfying.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop hyping up this thing because I don't want to overhype it, but because this could just be something that I'm really interested in.
That's cool. I mean, I'm just saying, like, getting into a new cryptid, deciding there's a new cryptid that's your favorite. It's just a big change, and I think we're currently in a season of changes. So,
yeah, it definitely gets added to the pantheon with this.
Absolutely.
So let's just start with the Snallygaster. In some ways, can be traced back to the early 1700s.
Okay.
And I'm saying that very specifically because this thing has really morphed over time in a way that I think is fascinating, and we'll get into that more. But this thing basically comes out of a almost like mistranslated a German belief, like a German immigrant superstition, where the term Snallygaster comes from the German term Schnellergeist, or quick spirit. So as the German immigrants came over and kept their superstitions and their folklore, and kind of started to live in the New World or in Maryland, Schnellergeist started to over time morph into Snallygaster. And so originally this thing was just thought of as a sort of like demonic or kind of spirit. Like it was a spirit that you would ward off by putting like stars over your barn. Like there are some places that say a 7-pointed star, some places say a 5. I don't know what's more traditional for German folklore. But this was warded off like any other bad spirit that you wanted to get rid of by using stuff like those kinds of stars. But it also, we'll get to it later, but it also might have ties to Native American folklore. Like this thing is a really weird kind of melting pot cryptid that has ties from everything from German immigrants, Native American folklore, sundown towns, and prohibition. Like this thing
Okay.
runs the fucking gamut culturally in
I
terms of where like how it got shaped.
I do feel like this is like the genesis point for so many like pre 19th century cryptids that would, because like so much of that is it's like these different cultures like running into each other and like or like misinterpreting other cultures like like you said, superstitions or folklore or whatever. So yeah, that's how a lot of this and I was just thinking because like dragons as a cryptozoological creature, there's a whole sort of subgenre of cryptozoology that's interested in that, but it's not super focused on North America. The only other one that I could think of right off the bat, and I'm not going to remember its name, so maybe I can look it up. But it's actually from Indiana. Do you know what one I'm going to say?
The big turtle?
No,
thing?
it's a dragon, or at least in some interpretations, it's a dragon. I don't remember when we have. I don't know. I don't remember when we would have talked about this.
I did that Indiana Cryptids episode. But
Maybe
I don't
it was that.
remember.
So this is the Crawfordsville monster.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Which like I think that it. I do believe that there is because like I do remember the here it is. The creature made a wheezing plaintive noise at 300 feet. It's like and I think that it was like I think the interpretation of what this creature actually is like a flock of killdeer type of bird moving and their weird movements and stuff. But it kind of got interpreted by some people as a dragon. So.
Well, real quick before I get into the full story here, the other thing that some people kind of confuse with this thing is a fearsome critter called the Snallygaster, which is O's instead of A's effectively. And that thing is like a combination of like an alligator and a snake with a big spine on its back. And it would attack humans by like flipping them onto the spine and impaling them. And then basically like grinding them into a pulp and drinking them.
Oh my God.
It's kind of dope. Like it's if you look it up, you can find photos, like not photos, but like drawings and etchings of it and stuff. It's kind of a cool looking, like weird thing.
That's such a bizarre and specific name though. Like, does it not have a same origin with its name from the German folklore thing?
I wouldn't be surprised if they had a similar like thing where like, as the fearsome critters were so kind of, codified by lumberjacks and tradesmen back in that time period. So I wouldn't be surprised if in traveling they heard about like, because the Snallygaster that we're talking about today took so many different forms over time. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some commonality in them where the phrase of like, oh, this area is afraid of this thing called the Snallygaster, then got like, passed down through circles and ended up with this other thing. It could totally, but I didn't find anywhere explicitly linking them. Most places went out of their way to say there's this thing and then there's this thing.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
So there are a bunch of different, like I struggled to find a lot of origins for the creature itself. But one that I found was that some people, some German immigrants who lived in the hills of Massachusetts and Maryland claim that the Snallygaster came from when a witch made a sow lay an egg, and then out came a Snallygaster. So a witch like cast a spell on a sow to lay an egg instead of a live birth, because a sow is a type of pig, right?
Yeah,
I believe so.
That's
so basically you make a witch makes a pig lay an egg, and you get the Snallygaster.
And the witch is just like what, doing this for fun, for shits and giggles?
I truly don't know. In that time period, I don't think you needed a lot of like motive for witches. Yeah, they kind of just get blamed for shit.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe the witch was like hanging out with one of her witch buddies, and she like kind of nudged her witch buddy and was like, "Hey, check this out," and she wiggled her fingers at a pig. That'd be kind of cool.
Has any sketch comedy group done Witch Jackass, where they just like do increasingly more like explicit, like weird spells against each other.
Esoteric, fucked up spells.
Yeah, like I think sketch comedy groups, that one's free. That one's on me. You can use that one. I would just love to send a link if you actually do it, because I would be interested to see what you come up with. So the Snallygaster is believed to be a kind of chimera of a dragon and a bird, but also with some other fun little content in there, because it's said to have one eye, a beak, a dragon-like body, and tentacles coming from its mouth.
Jesus.
This thing does most of its hunting at night. It carries off unattended children's, pets, and farm animals. It's supposedly very fast, and fast to the point where it can sometimes appear invisible in flight. And it sets up its roost in barns, but occasionally, this is one of those things I only found one place. It would enter people's homes and steal objects it fancied. Later on, it would replace what it had taken and return the object to a different spot in hopes of confusing and frightening the owner.
Okay.
That is one thing that I found one place. I don't know where that one I was not able to backtrace. That it just, that one I got nothing.
All I can say is that once I start, I misplace shit all the time. I am constantly forgetting where my keys and my wallet are. So from now on, I'm just going to shake my fist and be like, the Snallygaster strikes.
You have a perfect
I have an
thing now.
excuse.
You can just say that the Snallygaster is the reason why you can't find your shit.
Yeah, sorry, boss. I couldn't find the keys to my car and couldn't make it in the office today because the Snallygaster took them. So, I'll see you next week.
That whole thing really just feels like a kind of folks, like it fits into the like folksy side of this thing, because like there are people that are into this thing nowadays and write stuff about it and like look at it as this kind of touch point to like the German heritage of the area, like this is part of the German superstitions and traditions and stuff. So I can see this having kind of like a kind of folkloric kind of thing where it's like, oh, the Snallygaster came and was playing tricks on you. Wah, wah. Like I could see that being a thing.
I don't know. I don't know why, but I just had this like vision of like, oh no, we we only know that the Snallygaster's German in origin because the only food we could actually get it to eat was Wiener Schnitzel. Somebody's got like
loves cabbage and Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah.
Fucking
the German thing was just like it was entirely the creature, speaks German and frequents what's a German thing? The Autobahn.
The beer garden.
Yeah.
Never the two shall mix. Don't go to a beer garden and drive on the Autobahn.
Why?
So these things are supposedly said to live for approximately 20 years, then either die or like retreat into it. Okay, the explicit way that I saw this written, they're said to live for 20 years, then stay buried for 20 years before hatching again. So there's almost like a phoenix-like kind of, it lives and then it like hibernates or goes into an egg
they have
somehow
a dirt egg.
and hatches again. Yeah. This was reported on I saw this specific sentence on a Mysterious Universe article about an upcoming Snallygaster museum that's opening that right now is just like a person's collection. But
You're
they're
going
working on
right?
outfitting a barn. I would like to, yes. I don't think it's open yet, but you can maybe get like a private tour. So I might look into that because it would be fun. But so that is a thing that I haven't seen a lot of places, but I do think I have some idea of why they say that. And we'll get into that once I get into the kind of timeline of sightings and shit. So yeah, we've been through like the origins of it in the 18th century about how it started as like basically like a German folklore spirit ghoul type thing that you warded away with stars on your barn and shit. And then it then got kind of morphed in the 19th century. There's a source that people have found of lore of the South Mountain area, which I believe is like this area of the country. There was a book in 1882 entitled South Mountain Magic by Madeline Vinton Dahlgren. And it looks into the folk beliefs of the inhabitants of this area. And she basically mentions the Snallygasters very, very briefly in this book, but it's one of the few places you can find of this time period that mentions it. And it talks about why the 7-point star works against Snallygasters, which is tied to Celtic Christian backgrounds and Celtic Christian magic and belief systems. The heptalpha, or 7-pointed star, this is a quote from a book on the lost magic of Christianity and Celtic Essene connections. The heptalpha, or 7-pointed star, signifies the 7 gifts of the spirit, the 7 seals or chakras, the 7 days of the week, the 7 sacred planets, the octave of music. It also signifies the incarnation of the spirit, 3, the Trinity, into matter, 4, the elements. 7 is the number of the earth, revivified by divine current of life. So basically, 7-pointed star has a lot of power because it has tied to like Celtic Christian numerology.
Okay, and what does the 7-pointed star do against the Snallygaster specifically?
It just wards it off, so it basically protects you from it. Because in this era, like, it was used to like kind of scare children and stuff. Like the whole thing seemed to have been that this thing will like either take you away, or like, even in some cases, even though this is more later on, but there's a whole undercurrent of this thing is like almost vampiric and will drink your blood. You'll like get murdered that way. And that comes more in the 20th century, but at this case, it still is kind of tied to it. This book that I was talking about, the South Mountain Magic one, does talk about another creature that some people tie to the Snallygaster called the Eastern Racer, which is, as far as I can tell, just like a lot of snakes together, almost like a king rat.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is a thing that happens where there's this thing called the Eastern Racer, which is it really is just like a shit ton of snakes, like as one being, that lives in caves, and that kind of gets absorbed into the Snallygaster mythos and adds to the fact that, oh, the Snallygaster lives in caves, and it has these tentacles that come out of its dragon mouth, and that's where like the snakes become the tentacles that make up the part of the Snallygaster.
So it has a mouth-based Medusa thing going on.
Yes, it literally looks like a lot of the... Okay, so you could look at some versions of the Snallygaster in terms of how people have drawn it and liken it to a Cthulhu-based, like, kind of tentacle fucking mouth type thing. Like, it has that kind of vibe to it. So, it has that feel.
I did just have to look this thing up after that description. So, and
yeah.
Wow, there are some interesting interpretations of this thing.
Yeah. So there's a couple more things that around the turn of the century, where the Snallygaster pops up in texts written around basically around like slavery stuff at the time. Like it uses similar language into how people talk about like slave hunters, people who would like hunt down freed slaves or escaped slaves and stuff, to the point where Snallygaster almost becomes like a stand-in for the like boogeyman of a free slave getting caught again. Like it almost becomes this like slave boogeyman, like, in some ways.
You mean like a boogeyman to escaped slaves?
Yes.
Okay, I see.
So yeah, it starts to take on this weird thing where it acts as a way for to like basically talk about lynching without talking about lynching.
Oh my god.
The Snallygaster is a stand-in for these great injustices being done.
Is this our first racism cryptid?
This thing really ties, because like we haven't even gotten to the shit later on. This thing goes out with a fucking bang, and I don't mean that symbolically. There's all sorts of shit that we're gonna get into here in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like being an escaped slave is is difficult enough without a cryptid pursuing you.
So this thing comes up again in 1862 when a Confederate Union is passing through the Middleton Valley, which is where this thing kind of lives. And they are seeking assistance from some locals and, meals and all that kind of stuff. And the town seems entirely deserted. It's no one's in sight. All of the windows are shut. The doors are locked. And this is from a W.A. Johnson, who was a soldier at the time, who said this. On seeing us, they were evidently alarmed, but we quietly asked the lady if she would cook 4 pounds of flour for us. She replied that she would. This assured her that we were peaceful. I inquired of her why all the houses were so tightly closed and nobody visible. She replied that the Yankees had been to the town ahead of us and had told the people that the rebels had but one eye and a horn, both in the middle of the forehead, and that they lived on women and children. I was amazed and asked her if they believed it. She replied that they did.
Oh.
So this gets tied into the supposed Snallygaster lore of the day, where it through word of mouth and through the telephone game of all this stuff, it becomes this weird regional boogeyman for a lot of different things, almost. From lynching to civil war to then going forward, it will almost continue this path in a way that I think is very interesting.
So she is saying that soldiers up ahead had witnessed a monster, or at least that's what they're interpreting what she's saying.
She's saying that basically the Yankees told these people in this town that the Confederate soldiers were effectively the Snallygaster.
Okay. Huh.
It's a strange thing that I pulled. This is all from, I only found this on one place on the internet. Most places jump basically straight from like the 1700s to the 20th century. This is like the one place that I found any mention of this thing before about 1909. So it just was interesting, and I thought I would add it. But like in terms of where most places will start the story of the Snallygaster, it starts in 1909, where throughout February and March of 1909, various locals would describe encounters with a beast that they say had enormous wings, a long pointed bill, claws like steel hooks, and an eye in the center of its forehead. And it was described as making noises like a locomotive whistle.
Okay.
So this was first reported on the front page banner story of the Middleton Valley Register on February 12th, 1909. However, there are some places that claim the Cumberland Evening Times reported the first sighting of it instead. However, as far as I can tell, this comes down to a mix-up between one being a weekly paper and one being a daily paper. And there's a reason why the Middleton Valley Register one is first, and I will get to that in a little bit. The first person to see the creature was named James Harding, and he's the one that the description came from. He also, kind of as an aside, described it as a cross between a tiger and a vampire, which I don't. That seems strange.
Well, tigers don't have they don't have a beak, they don't have tentacles, they don't have wings. I guess vampires don't really have those things either, typically. Although in bat form, you could have wings, I guess, but.
And that's one of the strange things with this thing is like it really has morphed forms over the years, and that isn't helped by the fact that there's an entirely unrelated fearsome critter that has a very similar name.
Now let me tell you something, because I'm looking at this like really old depiction of it, like that I think is actually being used for a beer.
Yes, there's a whiskey. There's multiple beers, and there's a like beer festival called Snallygaster.
Okay, well, let me tell you something. This particular depiction, I can only find the beer label, but my immediate reaction upon seeing this thing is it looks kind of like maybe a vulture or a turkey.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's kind of accurate? I mean, obviously the later embellishments with like crazy Cthulhu tentacles and claws and stuff kind of not so much turkey like, but these older ones kind of I don't know, kind of turkey-esque. You could even see like where like I don't know, like where, you know how turkeys have the fucked up headpiece, the giblets and shit.
The
you
gobble.
can even kind of like see that it could kind of, I don't know. That I'm going to run with maybe it's a big scary turkey that's fucked up.
That's definitely possible. You know, the same stuff that people say Mothman is probably all fits in this category as well. But yeah. So after the initial reporting, other papers started to publish articles following that same kind of method. The Baltimore Sun, the Washington Post, and supposedly at some point, National Geographic was even trying to start an expedition to go capture the thing on film. And after the first couple sightings, it started to spread. Other sightings started to take place in New Jersey, where one resident said they found footprints of a snallygaster in the snow. Also in West Virginia, where a woman was supposedly almost caught by a monster near Scrabble, West Virginia, and later found it roosting in a farmer's barn, where it had laid an egg the size of a barrel. And this thing lays like fucking massive eggs.
And then later encountered it again in Boggle, West Virginia.
Yeah.
Went from Scrabble to Boggle.
Yep. And without getting in any trouble in between. So
that's important.
Also, someone reported seeing it in Casstown, Ohio, where he said a strange creature with large wings, a horned head, and glowing red eyes had flown over his home, making horrible screeching noises. So they're also, like the one story that mentioned an egg, there started to be these stories of this thing laying eggs. So it supposedly laid an egg at Crampton's Gap, which I believe is in Maryland, and then also the one in Scrabble, West Virginia. So it supposedly now has laid a couple eggs in various places. And there's even like a mention of one of these eggs supposedly being incubated by humans. But that's kind of the end of that story. I couldn't find any more of that story.
Of course.
So yeah, it also was seen in another place in Maryland where a man was firing a brick burning kiln. And it flew over this guy working. And then someone shot at it near Hagerstown yet again in Maryland. It was sighted south of Middleton at Lover's Leap. Basically, it started being seen all over the place, and yet again laying eggs. Sightings of the creature increased significantly in the early part of the century. And the thing that was kind of strange about this is that the reports of it physically started to vary. Like people would say they saw different things. But the name the Snallygaster stayed pretty consistent. Like people would say, I saw a Snallygaster, and then describe something that had nothing to do with like a flying dragon thing. Like some people like, okay, so these are the two wildest things that someone called a Snallygaster. A half bird, half wildcat with yellow and black stripes. And a sable-eyed muskrat with a tuxedo front.
Yeah.
However, sorry, those aren't the most crazy because there's one even wilder than that was supposedly seen in the fall of 1932, 23 years after the initial sighting, where someone reported seeing a Snallygaster swoop down from the clouds on an antique bicycle of the large front wheel variety, wearing water wings and shouting, "Balance the budget." Now, this probably was some sort of hallucination or other story, but it does get cited. I saw this cited multiple places on different Snallygaster resources. I was going to not put it in here because it's so ridiculous, but it came up multiple times in my research, so I had to.
Oh, wow. This is, I think, our first fiscally responsible cryptid.
Yeah. This is an episode of many firsts. This thing really wants you to balance the budget and loves to ride a penny farthing. I don't know.
That's amazing.
Now, the last sighting in 1909 occurred near Emmitsburg in early March, where three men supposedly fought the creature outside a railway station for nearly an hour and a half before chasing it into the woods of Carroll County. And that was the last it was seen for approximately 23 years.
Okay. This thing really sounds like it became a regional catch-all for an animal I don't recognize.
Yes. I think that is 100% the case. People like Snallygaster is like a fun name, and I feel like the name is whimsical and memorable enough that people started just to assume everything going bump in the night was the thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
now it did pick up again in 1932 with some of the sightings that I was mentioning up there. To the point where the Baltimore Sun reported the Snallygaster's death in November of 1932.
Oh.
There's a shadowy photo of a dead creature accompanied by a questionable account of how it had drowned in a vat of whiskey mash on a Baltimore County farm.
Okay.
Now, Kyle, this is maybe my favorite part of this whole thing, because that is supposedly how this thing was killed. Now, it didn't just drown in a vat. Well, it might have drowned first, but then the whole thing blew up. The whole fucking still exploded. And the first couple places I read left it at that. This thing, oh, wow, Baltimore Sun trying to end the general public panic of this unknown creature attacking people, carrying people off into the woods. It's dead. Here's like a shitty photo of it. Dead. Even though there is no like actual photo, I could not find any visual representation that mattered here. And there's a reason for that, because the whole thing got fucking blown up. Now, coincidentally, this happened pretty soon before Prohibition ended. Which caused this to be kind of weirdly tied to it in a way, because there are sources that state that moonshiners in the area used the Snallygaster as a thing to scare off Prohibition officers.
Okay.
So this thing was used by bootleggers to cover up for weird noises at their stills, for sightings of strange things, like all of these things, and also just to straight up spook away these people trying to shut down their operations. So the whole thing of this thing being killed, turns out it was actually Prohibition officers blowing up a still using dynamite
to cover up evidence.
To cover up, like, to basically just to blow up an illegal still. And it somehow got tied to the quote unquote death of the Snallygaster.
Oh.
And that, like, there was no more need for the Snallygaster because Prohibition was ending, and the Snallygaster was being used in that time period to scare off Prohibition officers.
Okay, so that's why we're making a bunch of alcoholic beverages around the Snallygaster. These days. Okay, interesting. Now that is, it's kind of like, it does remind me of Fearsome Critters, right? Where like, like almost all of the Fearsome Critters have some connection to alcohol in some way, because the idea, which basically Fearsome Critters are like a logger and lumberjack specific subset of cryptid like creatures and folk tales. But they're almost always these like tales that you would tell while you were working or around the campfire or whatever, that also sort of suggested, hey, it's okay to drink on the job. Like there is, I forget which one it was, but there's the one that it's like, oh yeah, this monster will fucking tear your guts out and eat your face off, but it's allergic to alcohol. So if you drink alcohol, that'll keep the scary cryptid away. So that's it's like a total opposite thing going on here. That's funny.
Yeah, I the idea of this thing, the whole, like, the death of the Snallygaster being used as a cover up for rogue fucking revenue bootlegger agents blowing up a still was a delight. I think that's fucking awesome. But here's the thing. That didn't kill the Snallygaster.
No.
The Snallygaster was seen many times since then. As early as November of the same year, it was seen by one Charles F. Main in the vicinity of Braddock Heights, who the thing that just this isn't important. It's just a little detail that really tickled me. Is in a lot of the cases where people are talking about Charles F. Main in this sighting, they specifically call him a Middletown resident and ice cream entrepreneur.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know how to. I can't picture what an ice cream entrepreneur is. It's just like, oh, you got to check
He
out
owns
this
an ice cream shop.
Okay,
Like,
sure. It's not like oh, he's inventing cool new ice creams to become an ice cream mogul.
I mean,
right?
maybe.
Like, okay,
it just is really funny. I don't know.
That is really good. I'm guessing here that people realize well why stop there at prohibition? There's plenty of other illegal shit that we could blame on the Snallygaster. So why end it?
So we're going to get... This guy was really working on some rum raisin ice cream recipes and had to revive the Snallygaster. So he supposedly was returning to Middletown from Frederick early one morning when he saw a creature flying no more than 25 feet above the ground. And he said its wingspan was approximately between 12 and 14 feet. And at times it would throw out long streamer-like arms similar to an octopus and then draw them in again. And this is kind of where... This was the first place that I actually saw the whole octopus mouth thing, the whole like tentacle mouth thing in an account. This is kind of the origin of that, as far as I can tell. Some people think it was a bird that has an octopus in its mouth. That is definitely possible.
That makes sense.
But not only did the actual physical form of this thing change over time, a lot of people cited it as having different colorations. Early on, a lot of people saw it as either black or white, but then over time it started to be seen as like all sorts of colors, like yellow and red and shit. Like it started to have, like, even in the same sightings, people would claim this thing changed colors in a way that I don't exactly know what to do with that information,
Yeah.
And then there's another sighting yet again in November 1932, where there's a headline that says Middleton Valley man kills strange bird, and this is straight from the Worcester Democrat from July 27th, 1934. Residents of Pleasant Walk in the northern section of Middletown Valley have been much excited during the past week over the identity of a large strange bird which was shot and killed by Edward Lewis. Some of the persons who saw the bird expressed the belief that it is the offspring of the dread Snallygaster, which appeared in this section in November 1932, despite the fact that the scientists claim it requires from 20 to 25 years for a Snallygaster egg to hatch. Those who believe that the young monster is a small Snallygaster claim that the unusual heat of the present summer caused one of the eggs to hatch prematurely. According to Mr. Lewis, he had been missing chickens from his flock for some time and kept a watch for a bird which was 4.5 feet tall and measured 6 feet from tip to wing. Its bill was 4 inches in length. The bird had speckled feathers. Mr. Lewis also stated that even after the bird had been shot and badly wounded, it made an attempt to attack one of his children, and it was necessary to fire a second shot in order to save the child from the clutches of the monster.
Okay. A few things here. First of all, the idea that it takes 25 years to incubate a Snallygaster egg, they made that up. I just want to point that out. That's made up.
The fact that the article says scientists claim is one of the funniest things of this. Yeah.
Second of all, wow, to live in a time where the big news could be local man shoots and kills weird bird. That is just some serious news. And the third thing I think is that this was a goose. I mean, just like when I think violent, mean birds trying to attack children, I think of a goose. I'll be honest. Yeah, that's where my brain goes. So,
yeah. So it then was seen again in 1948, soaring above the spires of Westminster, Maryland. A woman claimed that a Snallygaster actually attacked her physically. The woman suffered minor injuries, but a man named Bill Gifferson wasn't as lucky because he was eaten by a Snallygaster as his frightened friends watched.
Okay, so his friends killed him.
This is I did not do any I didn't try to get into the local fucking like obituaries and stuff to see what this guy's actual cause of death was, but that is the lore, is that this guy, the Snallygaster in 1948, just fucking ate a guy.
I think his friends may have murdered him, but that's just me. So
and then it came back in about 1973. in Sykesville, Maryland, when the Maryland State Police were called to search for, quote unquote, a huge hairy monster described by residents as a cross between a Dwayyo and a Snallygaster. Now, the Dwayyo is the thing that we're going to talk about, I thought, in this episode, but we'll see how far we get. This is turning out to be a longer episode than I intended. But this place, the citizens of Sykesville reported that the monster stood between 6 and 7 feet with a big bushy tail and black hair. Now, what you might be saying is, hey, that doesn't sound like a Snallygaster to me.
That sounds different.
And I would agree with you, but it gets brought up in this, and people are just really certain that whatever monster they see is a Snallygaster, and so it gets like it really gets morphed over
what
time.
if this is just an entirely different cryptid? We can't just go around Snallygasterifying every goddamn weird creature we see. We got to start organizing these things, categorizing them.
It definitely is closer to the Dwayyo, which we will hopefully talk about. Or we will talk about it. It just may or may not be in this episode. Now, those are like a good portion of the sightings from this era. There is like one other thing that publicly happened that I think is interesting. Because during the like peak era of the Snallygaster popularity in the early 1900s, the notoriety got to such a level that the Smithsonian Institution offered a $100,000 reward for anyone capturing the beast. So, local papers would write up about this. There were like these expeditions that started to be put together to try to, capture it. And at one point, even President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, considered postponing an African safari that he was going to take to try to personally come to the area and hunt down the Snallygaster. National Geographic also at this time wanted to put together a whole expedition to capture it on film. I believe Theodore Roosevelt didn't actually come and hunt this thing, but he was trying to, and it just didn't pan out because I think the fervor died down.
Ain't this the same president who also claimed that his friend was murdered by Bigfoot?
Yes.
So,
well, yeah, I think that's like a secondhand thing that someone claimed that was told by him or something like that. But yeah, there is. Teddy Roosevelt had some run-ins with a lot of different cryptids, it seemed. Now, there is this whole thing that I kind of have skipped over. I said earlier that there was a reason why I know the Middleton Valley Register was the first place to talk about the Snallygaster. And here is why. The original reports of the Snallygaster were part of a hoax perpetrated by the editor of the Middleton Valley Register, George C. Roderick, and a reporter named Ralph S. Wolfe in an attempt to increase their readership. They invented and borrowed themes from existing German folklore, including dragon-like creatures who snatched children and livestock, and also were kind of capitalizing on the kind of basically right before the Snallygaster stuff, like literally like I think weeks within like a month before the first reporting of this stuff, some of the early reports of the Jersey Devil came out.
Okay.
So they basically saw that and saw what the Jersey Devil sightings were doing for that area's newspapers and whatever. And it decided to put together this whole thing where they basically created this specific version of the Snallygaster.
Wow. Okay. And which version specifically was it that they are responsible for?
The dragon form without the tentacles.
Okay.
The tentacles came later, but the like chimera bird dragon one from the like 1909.
Wow. And all these years later, I'm looking at a giant spread of Snallygaster illustrations. And that's, kudos. You caused this thing to endure for basically ever now. With your hoax. That's really something.
Yep. So this thing kind of continues to be of note in local lore. There's, in 2008, a book was published called Snallygaster, The Lost Legend of Frederick County by Patrick Boynton, who he popped up a lot in doing my research because this seems like one of those things where it had its moment in the 20th century, and then it kind of faded into the background. Like it didn't go away or anything, but was kind of just downplayed for a long time. And then in the early 2000s and more recently, even, people have kind of picked it back up again and started to get invested in it and like do more research on it.
I've noticed that notorious TERF J.K. Rowling has gotten into the Snallygaster because that's apparently a Harry Potter thing now too.
Yes, this thing also appears in Fallout 76 alongside Mothman and some other creatures. It continues to kind of spread around. There, like I said, there's the American Snallygaster Museum that was supposedly opening in 2021, but I can't find an actual listing of it being open. I don't know if it's just like appointment only right now or something, but I did some quick Googling and couldn't find an address and hours. So they have a website that has like a bunch of, it's kind of cool. They actually have a part on their website that is like the Snallygaster in the news or whatever. And it's just like a bunch of clippings from newspapers. Now they're not set up in a way that you can read it super easily, but it's kind of fun to scroll through. But hey, make that a little easier to read, because I would love to read historical accounts of this shit.
Well, if they need a web developer, I'd be happy to help them out for a fee, of course.
Yeah.
I am looking now, and I've noticed that they have a very sick American Snallygaster Museum T-shirt that I kind of want.
Yeah, they actually have some pretty cool merch.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I don't want to spoil it. But people check out the American Snallygaster Museum website, because there's some interesting stuff on the
which one were you looking at?
I may have found an artist's depiction of Theodore Roosevelt slaying the Snallygaster.
Yep.
That's kind of sick.
You can get I think a poster of that. It's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Maybe I also need to track down the Snallygaster blended whiskey produced by Dragon Distillery in 2018. Or there's also a local South Mountain creamery produces an ice cream flavored named Snallygaster, which consists of peanut butter flavored ice cream with caramel swirl, peanut butter cups, and pretzels. Which, that sounds pretty good to me. I don't know what that has to do with Snallygasters.
Damn.
Sounds good.
Well, the Snallygasters are also, they did eat, chickens and pigs and stuff, but they are also known to crunch down on a pretzel every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you ran across that in your research.
They swallow them whole. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
They take
it is
pretzel
super
sticks
weird.
Take them
It
straight
seems,
down.
yeah, it seems uncomfortable. But their pretzel whole thing, and they like to take those pretzels with a bit of spicy mustard, German style. So
yeah. As befitting their heritage.
And who can blame them? Yeah. So,
I'm going to talk about the Dwayyo quickly, because the Dwayyo isn't nearly as in depth. The reason why these are one episode is because supposedly the Snallygaster and the Dwayyo are like mortal enemies and fight each other and shit. So this is like a straight up Kyle, I want you to know I fucking tried. I fucking tried to find any account
I believe you.
of anyone giving a blow by blow of a fight between a Snallygaster and a Dwayyo. I couldn't find one. I could not find anything.
What I could just in your voice, I could sense what you went through. So I get it.
A Dwayyo. Someone gave this thing like a scientific name, which maybe if we get enough people on the Patreon, maybe I'll make an attempt at fucking saying this thing. Fuck it. Dwayyo sapien therapsida australopithecus rexus is the scientific name of the Dwayyo, which is maybe the first cryptid I've ever seen put a scientific name to. This is a werewolf-like creature that has been sighted in the state of Maryland. It is supposedly half man, half wolf apparition. It dates back to the Pennsylvania Dutch settlers of the 18th century, it doesn't technically. the thing that it comes from dates back to that. It comes from a thing called a hexen wolf, which was a kind of a creature, a boogeyman of the Pennsylvania Dutch. It's like a demonic wolf creature thing,
Similar to a Steppenwolf, I'm assuming.
probably.
Okay.
And it is the hexen wolf almost became the Dwayyo, and like the Dwayyo is like the cryptid version of this folkloric being. And it at up until 1944, this was just a thing that was used to scare children. It was just like a folkloric belief. But in 1942, in West Middleton in Frederick County, Maryland, there were reports of a hulking, hairy creature with canine features and a bushy tail seen in the forests. Supposedly residents of the area would complain of hearing shrill howls in the night and finding strange footprints all over their property. And so it then would kind of grow in popularity a little bit until it really burst onto the scene in 1965, when a local man by the name of John Becker called a local newspaper and claimed to have heard a strange noise in his backyard. And he went out to go see if it was some sort of wild animal. And he found something that he described to the Frederick News Post as this. He said, near the woods this is the Frederick News Post, what they had to say about it.
Mm.
Near the woods of Gambrel State Park, John Becker went out in his yard to investigate a strange noise. It was getting dark, and he had started back to the house when he saw something moving towards him. It was as big as a bear, had long black hair, a bushy tail, and growled like a wolf or a dog in anger. As it got closer, it stood up on its hind legs and attacked him. Becker fought the creature until it ran into the woods, leaving him, his wife, and children in horror. Deciding to remain anonymous under the alias John Becker, he filed a report with the local state police, telling it an attack by a mysterious monster that he called a Dwayyo. Now, that doesn't give you anything on like where the term Dwayyo came from. I truly do not know that. But that's where this creature kind of began in earnest. Supposedly, the paper sent the report to the police to try to follow up with Becker. And according to Sergeant Clyde B. Tucker, Becker could not be located for questioning, and the address that he had provided along with his like report didn't exist. Straight up, just like a total fabrication.
Okay.
However, this didn't stop this whole story from spreading, and local hunters started to report sightings of it pretty regularly. A woman in Jefferson, Maryland claimed to have seen a dog-shaped animal about the size of a calf marauding about chasing some cows on her farm. And several hunters would see it describing a specific encounter. My dog started chasing something, and I saw it was black, but I didn't think too much of it, believing it was a dog, maybe even a bear. However, after reading the newspaper article, I'm not too sure it wasn't a Dwayyo. It trotted something like a horse. I don't know what it was, but I'm looking for it this week. This led to like a whole kind of public thing where students on the University of Maryland campus claimed they had spotted 4 Dwayyos on campus. And this is they supposedly looked into all of this stuff and like tried to research the creature and everything. And they said that it was a cross between a Dway and a yo. According to the students,
what does that mean?
I luckily have that for you. The Dway is a creature that inhabits the upper Amazon, they claim, and the yo originated in China, but migrated to the west coast of the United States in the remote past by way of the Bering Land Bridge.
Okay.
And the students went further to claim the yo and the Dway intermarried and formed a new species, and that's where the scientific name came from. Now,
okay.
A lot of people do think that this whole thing with the students was a bit tongue in cheek and kind of
a goof.
Yeah, like they're razzing the fools. You know, they're what? That is not a phrase. What am I saying?
We could make it.
They're joking.
Razzing the fools.
Pranking. Yeah, they're razzing the fools. Luckily, we haven't. I was worried I wasn't gonna have an episode title. But this didn't stop a hunt for the Dwayyo from being scheduled on December 8th, 1965, where between 50 and 100 students from Frederick Community College signed up to go on a hunt. It was scheduled for 5 p.m., being centered around Frederick County High School, but apparently nobody showed up.
Oh, sad.
So they straight up they didn't end up having a hunt for this thing.
Bummer.
So, there continued to be reports of this creature kind of around town at various times, various people, but there wasn't like it kind of started to go away after that. Like, there were reports in like the 1970s, and just like, it would pop up here and there. Like it never fully went away, but they that was the peak of it. The peak of it was it got so big that there was supposed to be this hunt for it. It didn't go anywhere, and then it just kind of went into the background of local folklore.
Now, I'm on the American Snallygaster Museum website on the gallery. I don't know if you saw this article that they have here in the gallery that basically I think is coming from the 40s or 50s by George May. And it's basically all it's adding to the conversation about the Dwayyo is that they think that the Snallygaster eggs are hatching that year, and that the Dwayyo and the Snallygaster may be one and the same creature.
I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, that is a thing that is part of this. The comparison between the two is very strange because they are tied in a lot of people's minds. Like, the Snallygaster and the Dwayyo are both local to this area, to the like the Maryland area. They're these two cryptids that have kind of coexisted. However, the Snallygaster has a much longer tail. Like, it's been around for quite a bit longer in different forms. But the thing that like, depending on where you look, you'll see different versions of this. Some people say that the Dwayyo almost like are this like morphed version of a Snallygaster, where like the Snallygaster eggs, something goes wrong and out comes a Dwayyo. Other people think that the Dwayyo are almost like a what's the type of bird that like pushes other eggs out of the nests and lays their own.
Oh, sure. I know what you're talking. I don't know what kind of bird it is, but I know what you're talking.
But it has that kind of thing to it, like But the thing that I found that I really liked was someone said something along the lines of like the reason the Dwayyo is a natural enemy to the Snallygaster is because it hatches out of Snallygaster eggs and stuff, and like out of those
takes their
the
nests.
nests, and so it is literally raised around the scent of the Snallygaster and around, and like so it is born in like a Snallygaster murdering rage, and that is just how Dwayyo live.
Okay, interesting.
Born to kill, effectively. So there are some other cases, like there's a sighting as recently as like 2009 of the Dwayyo, where a paranormalist known as Robin Swope saw this creature in Myersville, Maryland, out near Gambrel State Park. That seems to be where this thing lives. But that was reported to a website that I wish, where do I have that? phantomsandmonsters.com.
Oh yeah, I know that website.
Yeah,
I've been there.
They have some of the best kind of compilation of stuff, and this one sighting was told directly to them. Like that person, I guess, is like based out of this area. So like they seem to be around this area and like lived in Baltimore for a long time. So they were like from the Maryland area. And so that whole website, which is I've used before and will continue to use, is like tied to this area and handles it very extensively. So that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it is just like This is just a much more generic dogman type cryptid. There's some sightings where it kind of attacks people, but nothing that strange. The Snallygaster is really the interesting cryptid of the two for me personally. And yeah.
I mean, the fact that it's like taking Snallygaster nests and is born to hate, this thing's fucking cruising around with a bumper sticker that says, "I break for all animals except Snallygasters." Yeah. Like, I don't know, but
Oh.
I get what you're saying.
So in trying to find a story of a fight between a Snallygaster and a Dwayyo, I fucking tried. But I didn't find that. However, I did find something that I would like to submit as the alternative that I think might it might be cool enough and fun enough to make up for it, if you'll allow it.
I'll allow it this time.
So I was scrolling through like pages and pages of DuckDuckGo results on trying to find any combination of words that would give me that story. And I stumbled upon a link to something on Archive of Our Own.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
So while I was unable to find an actual account of a Dwayyo Snallygaster fight, I was able to find... Go ahead.
Well, for people who don't know, Archive of Our Own is a fan fiction website. Just
Correct.
Just to get everybody on the same page here.
So instead of that, what I do have here is an account of a Snallygaster and a Dwayyo fighting.
Oh, God.
But they also might be making love, and they also might be Hanzo and McCree from Overwatch.
What are you doing right now? What is this?
This is just, I'm just saying this exists. I'm not, I don't have to read it or anything, but I'm just saying.
Sorry, no. Are you saying that? Sorry, I'm trying to understand this. Are you saying that this is a fan fiction of a Snallygaster and a Dwayyo, or are you saying that you found a Hanzo and McCree fan fiction? You're like, what if I just substitute these in myself?
Oh no, the first one entirely. They are Hanzo and McCree are a Snallygaster and a Dwayyo.
You have to send this to me. Can you give me an excerpt at least?
Yeah. So let me. So the summary on this this tale is entitled "Mortal Enemies: The Tale of the Snallygaster and the Dwayyo."
What the fuck?
And it's category M/M fandom Overwatch. Additional tags are Strange Oddities fanzine.
What the fuck?
The rating is explicit.
Yeah, What the fuck?
The summary is one of my pieces for Strange Oddities, a Mekanzo fanzine, which I'm assuming is the ship name for McCree and Hanzo.
No, that makes sense.
Two little known cryptids from the Appalachian Mountains wage never-ending war against each other. ... Or do they?
Oh boy.
So let me just start, and we'll stop when it becomes uncomfortable.
You're gonna have to really push to make me uncomfortable. I'm mostly entertained, so go ahead. Let's fuck the big question. Can we just read all of this?
I look. Here's the thing. I want to be very clear about this. I'm not doing any of this to try to embarrass or make fun of the person that wrote this at all. I think this rules. Like the fact that someone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take two weird regional cryptids from Maryland and insert them into Overwatch man-on-man love fan fiction." I'm such a wonderful confluence of things.
It's not about embarrassing, but let me tell you something. I am a little baffled for the exact reason you just outlined. That's all it is.
It is the deepest of deep cuts. This is really the most niche thing that we may ever talk about on this podcast.
Okay, so
actually, and what's really funny is we do have a lot of Overwatch talk in the games channel of our Discord. So this is for you guys. He's late. Hanzo glances up at the harvest moon rising in the sky. Talons like glass shards click against the broken wood fence he's perched on. His long neck bends so a prolonged antler can scratch an inch along his flank. The fireflies have been dancing for some time now, and the cicadas are just gearing up for their nightly song.
This man normally doesn't have talons.
Yeah, that's because they are this one. I believe that's,
right. No, that's the Snallygaster,
yes.
Right? That's
he's late, and with each passing minute, Hanzo's irritation grows. The raven beside him caws an agreement. Mm-hmm. Impatience is beginning to shift to worry when he finally hears the crunch of leaves from the southern wood. His newfound raven friend takes to the sky as a hulking beast prowls out of the tree line. First shines dappled russet in the fading twilight, the creature's broad chest heaving for breath after a long run.
Yeah.
A frayed red serape flutters behind the creature, and a tattered cowboy hat rests on its bowed head.
Wow.
Even from this distance, Hanzo can tell the monster would tower over any mortal and send them cowering in fear. All Hanzo sees is an annoyance. It's about time, he says, posture straightening so he can look down his snout at the newcomer. Sorry, darling, McCree says, sweeping off his hat to reveal a long muscle, pinned ears, and golden eyes, tinged with apologies. Had a bit of a run-in with the game warden. Yeah. And it continues on from there.
You can't. I was almost there.
So if you want to find more of that, it is entitled Mortal Enemies, The Tale of the Snallygaster and the Dwayyo.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. So shouts out to the writer Wintera
Shouts out.
for making a thing that I'm honestly overjoyed that it exists.
That's really something. This is like that time where I found not even WWE. It was like, what was God damn it, what was the WWE before it was the WWE?
WWF.
Yes, I found WWF fan fiction.
Oh, here's the thing. If you ever want to know, in terms of archive our own tags, AEW does really well, but
oh boy,
but in terms of WWE people, the Shield are really big people in there.
Yeah,
but also like
me.
Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy is one of the biggest wrestling ships in fan fiction. I saw someone do like a data breakdown of like fix by ship and stuff in terms of wrestlers, and it was fascinating.
I can't remember how I found that topic, but it was not even like on an archive. It was like on somebody's own personal website.
Oh, cool.
And I don't even remember how I stumbled it, but it was like while I was researching for an episode. I know I brought it up on the episode, so somebody out there will hopefully remember that. Anyways, wow, I got to read that.
Yeah.
So, I cannot. I have to know what happens.
I know.
Do honestly, they fight? Do they fuck?
I'm not going to tell you because you have to go check this out yourself. Support Wintera. Go for it. But Kyle, are you ready for a big question?
Sure.
All right. So with this episode dropping the day of night 2 of WrestleMania and the creatures involved having a real rivalry, I want you to book the main event for a Cryptid WrestleMania. What fight main events the show, and what's the deal behind this fight?
Oh, man. I mean, all right. I got you.
Okay.
This is easy, actually. I should be booking wrestling events. Can I say that first
go for
it. It's going to be Bigfoot versus Mothman, right? So
you're going
Mothman
you're going for a biggest main eventers of all time kind of legacy match here going on. Yeah.
Yes, but here's the thing. Mothman has the belt right now.
Mm-hmm.
The World Championship Cryptid belt.
Okay.
But Mothman's been on a tear through the promotion, the Cryptid promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Just fucking taking out all the baby faces. He always seems to show up when a baby face thinks they're going to, get their big chance, their shot at the belt. Boom, Mothman shows up and disaster strikes. That just seems to keep happening over and over. Bigfoot being the sort of peaceful spreading sort of nature cryptid. And I'm not saying this is how these cryptids actually are, but this is to me the most popular interpretations of them.
Mm-hmm.
Bigfoot's like, the time is now for your reign of terror over the Cryptid Wrestling Federation to end. And I'm going to fucking he's going to do a whole like John Cena type thing. But like maybe there'll be like, he'll do the like you can't see me with the wave his hands in front of his face, but he'll have like a branch with like some leaves on it when he's doing it.
That'd be really good. Yeah.
And Mothman will do the Rock's funny eyebrow move, but he'll have glowing red eyes. And so I'm just kind of thinking like, babyface Bigfoot versus total heel villain Mothman. That's like the most immediate obvious booking. But knowing you, and don't take this the wrong way, but knowing you have some sort of like giga brain idea here. So what's yours?
Okay. So my thing here is going to be kind of a I want to book Nessie versus Spring-Heeled Jack.
Okay.
And now you may not think that that's like, the biggest marquee matchup.
Different, that's the kind of match where you bring your parents and they're like, aren't there weight classes for this shit?
Exactly. Because Nessie is going to be like kind of, Yokozuna-ish, like big wrestler kind of thing.
Weird.
Like, going like, we're talking like Andre the Giant type massive person.
Yeah.
Whereas Spring-Heeled Jack's a little smaller. And the thing that you're going to, you think, oh, this is going to be a squash match. Nessie's just going to take out fucking Spring-Heeled Jack and it's going to be nothing. But here's the thing. Spring-Heeled Jack won't give up. Comes in as the baby face. Nessie is the big heel.
A Dynamite Kid type energy.
A little bit like a Dynamite Kid energy. You're right. And the big twist of this match is going to be that Spring-Heeled Jack turns heel when, oh, what's that? Out comes the Men in Black as the new background for Spring-Heeled Jack to come in, and they all work together to take out Nessie behind the ref's back. And Spring-Heeled Jack turns heel at Cryptid Mania, takes the title, and starts a new authority type stable running everything in the fucking company and turns massive heel. So of course that's my booking.
The ref is, yes, everybody was thinking it. I'm confirming it. The ref was injured cold.
What's funny is originally when I was writing this, Spring-Heeled Jack was injured cold, but I swapped it, so that's perfect.
Wow. Okay, cool. So, wow, wasn't there an actual Cryptid wrestling group or something like that, or like was
Are you
it
talking about Kaiju Big Battle?
That's right, Kaiju Big Battle.
Kaiju Big Battle rules. If anyone who's not really into like wrestling but is into cryptids and is into basically like people beating each other up, Kaiju Big Battle is basically wrestlers in big kaiju costumes wrestling in a ring that a lot of times has like city miniatures in it, and they just like smash each other through shit. It's really fucking fun. And they tell these wild storylines and shit. It's really worth checking out if you don't know about this thing. It's a lot of fun.
Let's get our Cryptid promotion going.
Yeah.
How has that not happened yet? Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, hey, actually, there is I forget where they're out of. I think they're out of like the Pacific Northwest. There's one called Interspecies Wrestling, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
That is kind. It's not like cryptid specifically, but it's like animal based stuff.
Okay.
And they do a lot of. They did like a big like Lego death match thing that was kind of interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, that is the Snallygaster. That is the fucking. I wanted to get acquainted with my local cryptids, and I found a fucking gold mine.
Do you think that the Snallygaster is a heel or a face?
That's a good question.
I'm going with heel, but
I honestly,
that's just intuition.
I honestly, I'm going babyface. I think this is like a man of the people type thing. It's
okay.
It's it doesn't see the reason why prohibition should be a thing. So it's keeping.
Yeah, he comes out with an old timey
safe.
flask.
Yeah.
That all the fans pour their illegal alcoholic beverages into as he makes his way to the ring. Beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the episode for this week.
Amazing.
It went a little longer than I intended. Sorry, but that's what we're doing.
You apologize. Literally, people are just like, "Fuck yeah!" An hour and a half long episode. That's what's happening. You don't have to apologize to anyone. You just have to apologize to me.
Okay. Well, sorry
for
to
an unrelated reason. Nothing to
Okay.
do with the actual runtime of the episode. I'll fill you in after we're done recording. What I'm. I don't know what this bit is.
I'll be ready to atone. So,
I don't know.
Kyle, let's go and take care of some business.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers, from Stitcher to Google Play to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird and we're probably there.
Follow us at twitch.tv/itgetsweird. That's right. We stream sometimes, usually on weekends, Saturday or Sunday. And friend of the show, Colin, I've been playing Elden Ring co-op with him on that channel. And guess what? We just beat the fucking game in a co-op mod. Can you believe it? We beat the shit out of that game. That's right. Millennia too. So, that was a lot of fun. That's, I think, still up on the channel as of right now as a VOD, if you're curious. There's at least clips. So go give us a follow on damn Twitch, why don't you?
Yeah.
And then email us, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Whatever it is I said earlier in the episode about wanting an email from listeners, let us know. Although I will say, always appreciate getting emails from listeners who's like, here's a regional story about a cryptid or a UFO or whatever, like we got at the beginning of this episode. Always appreciate those emails, so feel free to send them our way. Oh God, what else? Oh right, patreon.com/itgetsweird. Look, we have a $2 tier, we have a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, you get access to a bonus show that comes out every other week on Thursdays called It Gets Weird TV. Right now, we are in the second half of season 1 of the X-Files. where Niall and I watch that shit together, and then we discuss it and we get into it. And we also talk about some other stuff. So that's at the $2 level. At the $5 level, you get It Gets Weird TV plus another bonus show in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. I believe this last week was my show, Internet Experience Deluxe, where I talk about weird internet stories. Niall has their own show, and we do all kinds of different content on there. Sometimes it's movies. Sometimes it's a mixed bag of content, but not quality. It's a smorgasbord. So that's a $5 tier. Now, whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you also get access to a Discord where we're hanging out talking about shit all the time, including, that's right, Overwatch. And I guarantee that there's going to be a discussion of this episode's last little segment. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
We also have a $1 tier where you don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, I like your show. Here's a tip. Take $1 a month directly out of my pocket and slip it into yours. And we appreciate you for that as well. If you can't donate money, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.
Peace.